Oh, right, it's Christopher Foss once again. And this is a request this time from Ali. And the name of this video is The Big Bang Theory What Went Wrong Wisecrack Edition. Let's check it out. Yay. Yeah, to me, Big Bang Theory is just. Big Bang Theory is just a bad comedy, in my opinion. I don't know why people. I don't understand why people like it at all. Like, it's just a bad comedy. It's not funny, it's stupid.
Talking about one of the most nuanced takes on geek culture out there, The Big Bang Theory. Bazinga!
I certainly understand why it's still getting new episodes every fucking week.
In fact, it's become somewhat of a recurring gag for us to hate on this show. So when you sadistic maniacs asked for what went wrong, we reached out to one of our unfortunate writers, Thomas. But instead of making this poor bastard watch all 5,175 minutes of this show, we just hopped on IMDb and grabbed the top 10.
I wouldn't waste 1 second watching this trash.
But I digress. Why is a show that deals with science, comics, and all that good wisecrack stuff so bad? Well, after hours of grueling research, we suspect it might have something to do with references.
So it's simple. The fate of Dr. Who's TARDIS will be decided by a Game of Thrones-inspired deathmatch on the battlefield of Thundercats versus Transformers.
See, The Big Bang Theory isn't just bad. It's profoundly bad.
It's
so bad that it requires philosophy to understand just how bad it is. So join me as I attempt to convince you that The Big Bang Theory is proof that meaning is dead. Welcome to this Wisecrack edition on The Big Bang Theory. What went wrong? And big shout out to the real MVP Thomas for watching this garbage. The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, poor man. He's suffering through all these through this torture. Full House is better, way better.
Battlestar Galactica.
That's my original series, Battlestar Galactica Flight Scene.
And even scientific facts and
plus, there's nothing wholesome in this
slipped in to remind us
show either.
And over again that Leonard
nothing serious. It's just so stupid.
They buy comics, perform science experiments, and sometimes describe very basic things like slipping in a bathtub, like this.
Not surprising, you have no safety mat or adhesive stickers to allow for purchase on a surface with a low coefficient of static friction.
Now, in case you missed the laugh track, Sheldon giving Penny the definition of friction was the joke. You see, it's funny because it's a reference. Now, if you're wondering why
I don't give a shit. I don't recognize any reference.
Because that definition of friction was simply slotted in there. Any other scientific statement about the nature of reality feels like it could have had the same effect here, like gravity, for instance. And cue the next joke.
Oh my god, I gotta go to the emergency room.
Well, assuming you're correct, because you're right, humorous is no longer seated in the glenoid.
The last track makes this even more annoying.
Replace the words humorous and glenoid socket with gibberish, and most wouldn't know the difference. And that's the problem. The actual science isn't the joke, but the fact that they're talking about science is. Friction isn't funny. The reference to friction is funny. By contrast, consider this brief Futurama.
The Simpsons?
For somebody who barely understands math,
that's a better show,
the reference will
too.
Probably evade detection. But for those who spot the symbol for olive null, the mathematical symbol for an infinite set of countable numbers, they'll realize the theater is implying there's an infinite number of screens. This not only gives an Easter egg for the mathematically inclined, but more importantly, the joke is the impossibility of a movie theater having infinite screens. The joke is about the subject of olive null, not the mere reference to it. The reference imbues the joke with additional meaning, whereas the Big Bang Theory accomplishes the opposite.
Leonard, do you recall when I said that I was going to revolutionize humanity's understanding
I like
of
him.
the ozone particle, and you said, Sheldon, it's 2 a.m.
I like the actor.
These jokes are, at best, lazy writing, and at worst, a small step toward the complete annihilation of reality. Yes, might sound extreme, but these kind of references with no subject is exactly what kept French philosopher Jean Baudrillard up at night. To Baudrillard, we are living in a state where reality has been obliterated. He gives 4 levels of representation. The first level is like a picture, a perfectly accurate representation of reality. The second level of representation is the unfaithful copy, a filter that makes you look prettier, thus obscuring your actual face. Below that is the third level of representation, one that deliberately hides the fact that there's no reality being represented, like an artist's rendering of you where they've never actually seen you. And finally, the fourth level is reserved for when signs and representations start referencing other signs and representations, and all sense of reality is thrown out the window. This is when people start photoshopping a Photoshop image, or
Yeah.
making memes of other memes. In Baudrillard's eyes, we're already living in a world controlled by a system of fourth order simulacra, where any reference to the original reality is lost, which might explain why he technically considers our reality a simulation. Now, if we're being optimistic, the Big Bang Theory is a distorted view of real nerd culture, the second order of representation. It gets a lot of the details wrong, but is still about real nerd culture. But if we're being pessimistic, and oh, we are, it's a show about nerd culture that has no relation to reality whatsoever. The third order of representation, a copy of something that never existed. It has science without actual science. It's about nerd culture without
It's not like
real
it's
nerds.
not
More
educational.
like what someone who has never met a nerd thinks they're like. That's where the bad science references become relevant to Baudrillard. More often than not, jokes rely on characters cramming in whatever scientific explanation is relevant to the action.
When are roadways most slippery? Now, okay, there are three answers, none of which are correct. The correct answer is when covered by a film of liquid sufficient to reduce the coefficient of static friction between the tire and the road to essentially zero, but not so deep as to introduce a new source of friction.
I mean, he's doing the best he can, but I just don't like any of the other characters.
Introduce jokes that don't rely on any understanding of the science, but rather the simple recognition that this is a scientific reference. It's the difference between Sheldon explaining how locks work when Penny's locked out,
Can't get the damn key out.
It's not surprising that Baldwin lock on your door uses traditional edge-mounted cylinders, whereas the key for your Volkswagen uses a center cylinder system.
I don't understand. See, I don't understand the humor.
when Leela and the professor are racing into drama.
One more lap? Ah, half a lap. You forgot on the movies to 2 laps is 1 lap. No sense in your
I love
In
Futurama.
the former,
I
the
won't
joke
say
doesn't
that.
rely on an audience understanding how locks actually work. The reality is irrelevant as long as we recognize that Sheldon is being unnecessarily smart. Whereas in Futurama, we're laughing at the actual science referenced in the joke. For Baudrillard, as things progress, these
Futurama is
references
100%
end
a
up
better
becoming
show,
their
for
own
sure.
reality. And this is where we see Baudrillard's dismal vision reflected in the Big Bang Theory. These copies divorced from reality, either partly or entirely, signal not only the death of meaning, but make all ideas interchangeable. Because the jokes in the show are apropos of nothing, the characters can essentially spew meaningless nonsense under the guise of a meaningful joke. Like in the show's game Mystic Warlords of Ta'a, which starts as a kind of joke about Magic the Gathering,
Invisibility spell. Luminescence spell.
and then quickly descends into utter nonsense.
Two-headed tiger. Three-headed lion. Sulfur. Board stone.
It doesn't matter if they said two-headed tiger, three-headed lion, seven-headed ethical Logan Paul, or Frankfurt School jam-encrusted beetle monster. The joke will work on the audience no matter what they say, because the show functions at a level of selling you an empty joke under the guise of a meaningful one. So here's the big question.
Not over, is it?
If the Big Bang Theory's use of reference for reference's sake ultimately points at nothing, then what are we laughing at?
My hair is
Nothing.
growing
We're laughing at
4.6
nothing.
dot meters per femtosecond.
Or at least, what is the studio audience laughing at?
It is scientifically impossible for a person to tell.
Seriously, somebody please tell me.
Her new sound.
It's nothing.
But what you're forgetting is he was
It's
in the
just
shield
annoying
in the field of
and not funny.
biology. But that's all about, yeah.
Like I said, he's okay in this show, but that's about all I can give it.
Well, after conducting a rigorous study, our team of media experts has come up with an answer. The show basically just shits on its characters. That's all that's happening.
Princeton. Fine institution. A place where Albert Einstein taught. And where Leonard got his PhD, so it may have gone downhill.
Like when Leonard and Raj think about buying Howard a prostitute following a recent breakup.
She's exactly his type. A hooker. Look, I bet if we hired her, that would cheer him up.
We're not going to get wild with a hooker.
I don't understand what he just said, but whatever.
I'm so lonely and horny, I may open this $20 jar of peanuts and end it all.
That is just not funny. Like I said, it's
Or like when
weird.
Sheldon defends his girlfriend.
Stuart's kind of interested in Amy.
And this ain't a show for kids either because of the language.
Did you know when she was 14,
I understand who this is for.
between her own toes?
As it turns out, ripping on people is actually
It's an inappropriate for kids,
in the West, the
and it's too immature for adults.
superiority theory, which began with Plato,
In my
saying that
opinion.
laughter was a form of scorn. The people we laugh at are generally unaware of how awful they are, which invites our laughter. Later on, Thomas Hobbes modified this a little bit by saying that laughter was a result of our competitive nature. When we laugh, it's either because we're triumphing over another or watching their downfall.
Kids shouldn't be watching a show like this. Period. Shouldn't be for kids, period.
Which proceeds from our perceiving a small evil in a person whom we consider to be deserving of it. In the end, all three philosophers agree that when we laugh, it's at the expense of others to make ourselves feel good.
See?
While
It
this
show
might seem
blood.
pretty
That's not
obvious,
for
Big Bang
kids.
Theory isn't Seinfeld. These aren't horrible people deserving our scorn. Case in point, showrunner Chuck Lorre literally said, the show is not about geeks or nerds, but about extraordinary people. So if they're so extraordinary, why do they deserve to be shit on? Which brings us to the big picture problem. Instead of building up nerd culture, The Big Bang Theory kind of tears it down. When the show simply pays lip service to nerddom, mechanically inserting any reference for reference's sake, the show reveals its contempt for real nerds. The details of nerd culture are irrelevant. As long as they sound like wanky assholes, it's close enough.
What you doing?
I'm attempting to view my work as a fleeting peripheral image so as to engage the superior colliculus of my brain.
Okay, that was funny.
And while the show can fall back on its laugh track or rip on its characters,
How long has he been stuck? Intellectually about 30 hours, emotionally about 29 years.
ultimately this does all of us nerds, from the Buffy fans to the Marvel fans, a
I love
disservice.
Buffy too.
Instead of finding ourselves reflected on screen, we see
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that's a
just
classic
get
show.
dumped on. So
I
what do
grew
you
up
think,
with
Lance
that.
Cracker? Are we being too harsh on the biggest show in the world, or are we being a bunch
No,
of
I don't
shows?
care about this show.
Yeah, not that one.
Ashley's memorial.
That's it. Yeah, if you like the show, good on you, that's cool. It's just not my type of thing. It's too immature and too juvenile for adults. It's too inappropriate for kids, so I don't ever understand who this show's fucking for. But I guess we all have our bad... I wouldn't say bad taste. I guess we all have our taste in movies and TV shows. And guess what? The world's still turning. And that's all I can say. So take it with a pinch of salt. I'm not trying to stop you from liking the show. It's just not my type of thing. Respect that, or I won't respect you. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.